What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. In today's review, I'm finally going to be taking a look at some brand new Transformers Studio Series figures, starting off here with the Studio Series Deluxe Class Soundwave, based on his appearance from Revenge of the Fallen. Starting off here first with the packaging, you can see that we have some phenomenal artwork of Soundwave here in his satellite mode. I think that looks absolutely fantastic. Studio Series Soundwave Revenge of the Fallen. The side of the packaging has an up-close image of the character's head sculpt, and then as we turn around to the back of the packaging, we've got some product shots of both Soundwave in robot mode as well as in his satellite mode. It also does have a brief bio. Soundwave hacks an orbital satellite to provide a tactical advantage to the Decepticons. Something to note is that this figure only transforms in 10 steps, so I'm really not expecting too much of this release. If you've watched some of my previous thoughts and analysis videos, this one here appears to be one of the weakest out of this wave. Turning around to the other side of the packaging, we have another cool piece of artwork. So without further ado, let's crack Soundwave open and see what awaits us inside. And so here we have Soundwave fully opened up and out of the packaging and transformed into his satellite mode. Now before we take a look here at this monstrosity, I first of all want to quickly showcase you here the backdrop that we do get included. I think that this looks absolutely phenomenal. Of course, this is based on the scene where Soundwave is lurking over planet Earth, intercepting the Nest communications and trying to locate the shard. So this is definitely an awesome backdrop, and in my opinion really completes the overall look of Soundwave here in his satellite mode. And so here we have Revenge of the Fallen Soundwave fully transformed up into his satellite mode, and I'm going to be completely upfront and honest at the beginning of this review and state that I am not a big fan of this figure whatsoever. I think that the proportions are way off. I think that the satellite mode is probably one of the laziest Transformers Studio Series alt modes that I have ever seen, and considering we only ever see Soundwave in his satellite mode in the film, I really would have thought that Hasbro would have tried their utmost best to perfect and create the look that we saw in the film. With all that being said though, the detailing on this figure is quite nice. However, he does lack paint applications. You can see that he really only has some silver paint apps applied here to these pauldrons at the front, as well as this one here and some at the back. The main bulk of the figure, the torso area, as well as the legs and the arms, have gone completely unpainted with some slight gunmetal silver highlights to bring out some of the sharper details of the sculpt, but considering how dark the paint applications are, that it does begin to get slightly washed out next to the already very dark looking plastic. Bringing him in for a closer look, you can see that I think he has a marvellous looking head sculpt. The detailing definitely hasn't been slacking on this release whatsoever, and in my own personal opinion, I do actually prefer the head design of Soundwave in Transformers 2 compared to that of his appearance in the Dark of the Moon movie. I just think that the visor look looks a lot better than what we got with the eyes, and you can see all of the panel lining detail as well as the sculpture work there I think looks fantastic. These sections here, unlike some of the promo images, are completely unpainted, so we don't have any blue paint applications here, and I think that that could have made a massive difference, especially seeing as these are smack bang in the centre of the torso. If you would have just had some subtle highlights of blue, I think it would have broken up the grey mass that we have here at the top. But the main torso, you can see we have this phenomenal sculpted section. It's a shame that they didn't use a similar paint app here for this, as I think it greatly would have excelled the sculpt work. But you can see that this is the section where Soundwave does shoot Ravage out of his chest in the film, or at least shoot him out of his satellite form in the film in order to go and intercept Nest headquarters. You can see the detailing on that piece is really lovely. I'm completely uncertain as to why they've given him this almost specular-like paint scheme. You can see that he does have these black polka dots scattered throughout, and to me it looks really out of place when compared next to the rest of the figure, and I'm quite unsure as to what they were trying to accomplish with this. It doesn't look as if though Soundwave had any type of paint application like this in the film, and I can't think of a reason why they would have given him this type of paint application. It can't be battle damage, as Soundwave never lands on Earth and never fights with any of the Autobots in the second film, so this to me is definitely a major mystery. But you can see some lovely silver paint applications here for these top pauldrons with a fantastic transparent blue plastic. I'm a huge fan of these sections. I just wish we saw more of this throughout the rest of the sculpt. You can see the detailing on this pauldron too is also really nice, crisp and correct, and the silver paintwork looks absolutely fantastic. But then as you begin to turn to the sides, you can just see how wacky and disproportionate this is, and to be honest with you, this to me doesn't resemble anything like a satellite, at least nothing like we saw in the Revenge of the Fallen film. Of course, Soundwave wasn't a complete satellite, he did have robot elements to him, but this just doesn't to me look like anything that we saw in the Revenge of the Fallen movie, and in my opinion the original 2009 version did the satellite mode justice when compared to this release. He does however however come with this amazing looking transparent blue stand, and I think this looks really lovely, and I'm glad that they did include this, as with the original release there was really no way to balance Soundwave in his satellite mode other than stacking him up with some of the other figures. He doesn't really have any articulation in this mode other than the fact that you can rotate the head sculpt. However, I believe that's mainly probably for his robot mode, as I don't believe we really see Soundwave move all that much in space. And then just for a quick comparison, I will quickly bring in the original version. So you can see here for a comparison just how substantially larger the original version was when compared to this version, and in my personal opinion I do think the older version is vastly superior, pun intended, over the new Studio Series version. I think that the lighter colour of grey that they've used makes it look more like a satellite than the darker colour that they've used here for the Studio Series version, and just in all it's a lot more sleeker, a lot more slimmer compared to this rather bulky, clunky looking figure that we have here. So I'm really unsure as to what Hasbro were thinking when they made this. In my opinion, this has got to be one of the lowest ranked Studio Series figures that I've picked up, at least picked up in a very long time. So in my opinion, for satellite mode, it by far goes to the original 2009 version. Turning now to the transformation, as you would expect, this figure is incredibly easy to transform into robot mode. So to begin with, you're just going to want to remove the stand. You can see that it does just peg into this port via this slot, so just set that off to the side here. You're going to want to come to these sections and just detach those, so you can see that they tap in here to this slot. So you're just going to want to bring those down, rotate this around, take this section here, and just lift that up and slide it up against the leg. Repeat the same process here for this side, so just slide that down and then fold this section up. We can then turn our attention to this side, and you're going to want to take this and dislodge this, rotate this all the way around, bring this joint backwards, and you can see here a small tab that will actually peg into this slot. So just align this up and snap that nice and securely into place. With that now done, you can leave this section out. However, for a more clean and coherent look, I like to tab it into that stand port, so you can see that it does tab in, and it's a lot more flush when compared to how we had it previously. With that being said, you're going to want to come to this section now, pull this section back, rotate this around, and you can see that this circular section will fill out this half circular groove, and you're going to want to align this slight tab up with the second notch. So tab that into place, and then repeat the same process, tab that section into place. Take these pieces now and just rotate these. They don't tab in anywhere, you just have to rest those up against the sides of Soundwave's torso. And then here for the arms, just fold this piece back in order to reveal the hands. Repeat the same process, and here we have Soundwave fully transformed up into his robot mode. Now, taking a look here at Soundwave in his robot mode, of course in the Revenge of the Fallen movie we never see the ROTF version of Soundwave actually obtain a robot mode that looks anything like this, at least not a humanoid looking robot mode. I know throughout the course of the film the satellite mode slightly shifted in terms of its look and appearance, but this here is a complete concept idea, and it's something that Hasbro have completely come up with themselves. And to be honest with you, despite this being the mode that I was least looking forward to, I actually think that this is the better out of the two modes. Now, in terms of detail, it's very similar to what we saw in satellite mode, as all of the pieces, they don't really tuck away nor hide anywhere. So the head sculpt is just as detailed as we saw in satellite mode. The torso is also just as detailed, and the arms here I think look absolutely phenomenal. So you can see that we do have some lovely speaker detailing, as well as these spike sections here at the top of the shoulder. We also have got some nice sculpting and detailing here at the top. He's very broad in his design, which at first I didn't think was too in proportion with the rest of the figure. However, Soundwave has always been a very broad character, and when I do bring out the Dark of the Moon version, you'll see that there is definitely continuity in terms of his overall shape. You can see that we've got some phenomenal sculpting and detailing here for the bicep, as well as the speakers. I think the hands have been detailed really nicely. The lower torso region, once again, similarly to the upper chest, has that specular paint application, and I have no idea what this is supposed to simulate, as I don't remember Soundwave having any type of deco like this in the film, and I really don't know what they're trying to get at with this. You can see that we even have it here for the knees, and then some here for the lower section. I would have much rather had them just scattered some silver highlights throughout the figure, and I think that that would have greatly amplified his look here for robot mode. But you can see some lovely detailing for the toes, and then from a side perspective we do have the satellite pauldron here at the back. However, from the front it almost looks like skirt armor or something that you would see on perhaps a knight, so I think that all looks cool. In terms of articulation, he's surprisingly really well articulated. So we do have a ball joint here at the head which can look left to right. We also do have a hinge joint due to transformation, so you can utilize both of these joints to get a fantastic range of motion up, as well as a reasonable amount of range of motion looking down. The arms can rotate the full 360 as well as hinge out to the side, sides. They're slightly obstructed here due to this pauldron, but we do get a full 360 rotation there at the bicep, a 90-degree bend there at the elbow. No wrist rotation, however, due to transformation, you can angle these sections in, so you can have these as blades for Soundwave if you so desired. He does have waist articulation, however, it is locked in, so you don't get the greatest range of motion. However, if you begin to just move certain elements out of the way, you can definitely get a greater range of motion out of that. The legs are on ball joints, so they can kick all the way up as well as back that far, which is great. They can do the split slightly. You can see that this section does restrict that range of motion. We do get a rotation here at the upper thigh, as well as a 90-degree bend there for the knee. And something which I was not expecting, especially for a Studio Series figure, is that he does indeed have ankle rocker joints, and these go to a fantastic degree, so you can really get this version of Soundwave in some phenomenal poses here in robot mode. So in terms of detail and articulation, I think for robot mode that it's really good, and as stated, for me, this is by far the superior mode. For a Soundwave size comparison, you can see both this satellite version as well as the Dark of the Moon version, and this version here really does give me protoform vibes. You can see that the broadness of both of the characters is still evident. However, this one is of course a lot more bulkier due to the car mode aspect, so I can really see this version of Soundwave coming to Earth looking like this, and then the tyres taking the space of this section up, and then all of the other vehicle mode components wrapping around and just bulking him out. So for me, this is definitely a protoform version of Soundwave, and I'm all for this look. I think that this will look great on the shelf. It's almost as if though this is the Cybertronian version, and then this here is of course the Earth version, and I think that they both look really amazing when displayed next to one another. And as stated previously, robot mode for this version of Soundwave I think is the go-to mode in terms of a display option. Just bringing them both in for a closer look so you can compare the head sculpts. You can see with the ROTF version we have the visor, and here for the Dark of the Moon version we do have the eyes. In my opinion, I do prefer the look of this head sculpt over this one, but they're both very accurate in terms of what we saw in the movies, especially where the head sculpts are concerned. For another Soundwave size comparison, here we have both versions of the Revenge of the Fallen Soundwave, so the Studio Series version as well as the 2009 version, and as stated before, in my own personal opinion, I do think that the original looks a lot better than what we get here for the Studio Series version. I think the detailing on the Studio Series version is rather nice, and of course they have completely drastically different looks here for robot modes, so really you could have both of these displayed on the shelf, but in my opinion I much prefer the lighter shade of plastic used on the original version than compared to the darker plastic that they've used here. And this to me I just think looks a lot more bulkier and a lot more menacing. This version of Soundwave looks very lanky, more like a protoform as stated before, and I really do think Hasbro should have done something like they did with this version on this particular release. So now turning to reverse transformation, as we saw when going from satellite to robot mode, the transformation on this figure is very simplistic. So to begin with, I recommend just folding down the hands so that we have the satellite pauldrons. We can then take this section, untap that, and then just align this up with the second notch. Repeat the same process. Now what I recommend doing is taking this, untapping all this, rotating this around, and then with these pieces here, we're just going to want to angle these upwards, rotate these around on the ball joints, and just have those sections here sit upwards. With that now done, we can come to this piece and just snap that all nice and securely into place. Turn our attention now to the back, and you're just going to want to hinge these pieces down, and then with this, very simple, this section will tab into this tab, so just raise this all up, align this up nice and appropriately, ensuring that everything does stay tabbed in. So just straighten that section out, snapping that in, and then repeat the same process here for this side. So of course, just align that in, give that a nice squeeze, come to this piece here and just detach that, and then we can angle this whatever way we so desire. And then with the arms here, you're just going to want to compress them into a position that looks along the lines of this. Bring back our display base now and just port this into the port, and there we have Revenge of the Fallen Soundwave fully transformed back into his satellite mode. So that was my review on the newly released Transformers Studio Series Deluxe Class Revenge of the Fallen Soundwave. I really do apologise to those of you who were looking forward to this release. However, for me, I cannot really recommend this. I don't think that it has a great looking satellite mode. Of course, Soundwave has always had a very alien appearance in the Revenge of the Fallen movie. However, I still think that the original 2009 version did the satellite mode justice and gave us a blend of both realism and, of course, the robot aspect. I think that the colour of plastic that they've used here is probably one of the major drawbacks. I think that the colour is too dark for what we saw in the film. He was definitely a lot lighter of a colour, similarly to the original 2009 version. I don't like how big and bulky he is here at the back, and I think the transformation is far too simplistic. If they would have engineered a way for perhaps this section to be hollow and for the arms to fold into that for a more sleeker looking satellite mode, I think that could have perhaps greatly amplified the look of the satellite mode. And in terms of robot mode, whilst we never see Soundwave transform in the film, I think the robot mode is by far the best looking mode. I think that the proportions for the most part are nicely done. I like the look of the robot mode. I have no idea why they've used this specular like paint scheme on some of the areas of the figure. I would have much rather a simpler silver paint scheme than what we got here for the torso. The detailing and the moulding is quite decent on this release, but just in terms of looks, I'm sorry, but I really do think that this is a very rare case where the previous version destroys the newer version. So with all that being said, do you agree with my thoughts on this figure? Do you like the look of it? Do you not like the look of it? I'd be really eager to know down in the comment section below what you think of it. For me, this is definitely an easy pass. If I wasn't a completionist, I probably would have no desire to pick this release up whatsoever. I really do hope that you enjoyed this review. If you did, please do let me know down in the comment section below. And until my next review, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.